ProPilot Assist. We're now going to talk about ProPilot Assist. And one of the things that you're going to learn about in this module is, again, another reason why you need to use an OEM factory scan tool called the Consult. Why is that? Because it identifies the build data, which tells us the trim level on that vehicle as to which vehicle may or may not have ProPilot Assist. So Jake, how can we tell, other than using a Consult factory scan tool, if the vehicle actually has ProPilot Assist?
Yeah, well, typically those higher trim levels are going to have the ProPilot Assist. So a couple of things you can look for. The electric parking brake switch is one. You can also look for on the steering wheel the blue rings surrounding the vehicle, and also in the gauge cluster it'll show a ProPilot icon.
Great. What is ProPilot Assist? Well, first of all, a ProPilot Assist is a hands-on driver assistance system that requires the driver to remain engaged at all times. When we say remain engaged, I think that's where they're saying it's not a self-driving car and they have to at least have their hand on the steering wheel. Jake, is that correct?
That's correct. In ProPilot 1.0, it is a hands-on driver system.
Awesome. Now, ProPilot Assist is a feature that combines both the enhanced intelligent cruise control as well as steering assist. Now, the Intelligent Cruise Control, or ICC, is similar to systems on other Nissan Infiniti vehicles with one exception, and that is that the new system can slow the vehicle to a complete stop and then hold the vehicle stationary. Steering Assist helps the driver maintain the vehicle in the center of the lane automatically using subtle steering correction from the electric power steering or direct adaptive steering systems. ProPilot Assist also uses the ICC sensor and lane camera unit that are the same hardware used on the other Nissan Infiniti vehicles. The difference is in the software implementation. So Jake, you're telling me that a vehicle can actually have the equipment, but it may not have the software.
Right. Well, another analogy I like to use there, Mike, is that our iPhones had the hardware all along to implement Siri, right? And then one day we got an update that added Siri, and suddenly we can talk to her and she can make a phone call for us. It's the same situation in Nissan vehicles where the software is absolutely the driver on what features the vehicle actually has.
So again, ladies and gentlemen, if you're using an aftermarket scan tool, it doesn't know if that vehicle has this feature or not. Only OEM scan tools do. Well, we talked about what ProPilot Assist was, but now we're going to talk about what ProPilot Assist is not. It is not a self-driving feature. It's not a self-driving car. ProPilot Assist is not capable of safely driving the vehicle without the driver's hands on the steering wheel. ProPilot Stop and Hold. ProPilot Assist can bring the vehicle to a complete stop using the hydraulic brakes. Now, the hydraulic brakes will maintain hydraulic pressure for up to 3 minutes. If the hydraulic brake hold exceeds 3 minutes, then the electric parking brake is applied and the hydraulic brakes are released. Jake, can you share with our students what is the photo that we're seeing on the screen?
Well, you're seeing the actual parking brake switch in a ProPilot equipped vehicle. And the main reason it does that, it releases the brake and puts the parking brake on after the 3 minutes, is you don't want to build up a lot of heat in the ABS module and potentially damage it.
So again, Jake, this is something that may not exist on every single Nissan or Infiniti, correct?
Correct.
That's why, again, we need to use the OEM factory scan tool that has the build data and the trim level. So we just got done talking about ProPilot 1.0. Well, guess what? There's already discussions and information being released about the future ProPilot 2.0. We're going to play a video for you, and Jake's going to narrate it. Jake, tell us about ProPilot 2.0.
Well, ProPilot 2.0 is pretty interesting, and you're actually looking at the dashboard of the new all-electric Aria. So as you can see, the gentleman has got his hands on the steering wheel. He engages ProPilot 2.0. He can take his hands off the steering wheel, his feet off of the pedals, and the vehicle will maintain distance and lane position. ProPilot 2.0 is also capable of making turns. So if you think about exit ramps and on-ramps on highways, that's how it works. So it does not work on city streets, so it only works on approved highways. You heard Mike and I stress test drive requirements, including a highway. So when it comes to ProPilot 2.0, it's only going to work on an approved highway.
So remember, with ProPilot 2.0, it's a little bit of a next level thing from 1.0. You absolutely need to have your hands on the steering wheel with ProPilot 1.0, correct, Jake?
Correct.
So let's talk a little bit more about ProPilot 2.0. You know, I've noticed that as I get a little bit older, my depth perception is not so good. And man, I just wish I had something that would help me to park easier. So Jake, I think that ProPilot 2.0 will help people to kind of park in these tight parking places, right?
Yeah, when you think about the congested areas of downtown or even airport parking, it can be very tight, right? The spots can be very small and close. So ProPilot Park allows you to step out of the vehicle and actually park the vehicle using the key fob.
Wow, amazing. So, like, we travel a lot, we're in airports. I know parking your big Nissan Titan truck, that would be a nice feature to have.
Yes, and also a new heads-up display. So we're able to see the navigation files and the miles per hour and even the traffic sign assist displayed in the windshield. So this is where you want to make sure that you're checking that windshield for OEM, looking for the stamp, the Nissan or Infiniti stamp in the windshield, so you don't affect these systems and affect their clarity and how clear they are.
Yeah, keep in mind, your windshield today is almost like a display device. And if you're using an aftermarket or non-OEM glass, it may actually affect the curvature or the laminate thickness, which kind of gives you that beer goggle look. So again, that's why we encourage you to use Nissan OEM or Infiniti OEM manufactured glass. So again, we're going to continue this deep dive into ProPilot 2.0 and really kind of understand how it works. Jake, give us a little bit of an overview.
Well, we think about what 1.0 had on board as far as sensors and radars, and a lot of the same sensors, your front camera, the sonar, the around view cameras, side radar, front radar, all of those things are still in place. The new one there is the driver monitor. So 2.0 now monitors the driver's face. So you can't just go to your email or your phone once you've got 2.0 engaged. You actually have to be paying attention and looking at the road. It also uses the navigation map files to determine are you on an approved highway. So as you can see in the map files on the screen there, that it's not going to work on local roads, it only works on approved highways, so you want to make sure those test drives are done on the approved highway. This picture to the left is actually showing what the camera, the lane camera, actually sees. And you can see it's picking up the lane markings, it's picking up other vehicles, how far away they are, those kinds of things. Also picking up the driver's face, as we mentioned in the previous slide.
So what is steering assist? Steering assist is part of the ProPilot system that provides steering assistance to help keep the vehicle in the center of the lane. It uses the lane camera near the inside rearview mirror to detect lane markers and pedestrians. A little helpful tip for you. Make sure that your detail department isn't just spraying window cleaner all around that area or getting any lint from a paper towel, as it could scratch the lens of the camera. In addition, if your customer or vehicle owner has like an easy pass placed in the windshield area, it could affect this. So be sure to review tech info or the owner's manual to ensure where those easy passes can be placed. Now back to steering assist. It also uses the steering system to make automatic steering corrections, but it only functions if the ICC is engaged, meaning the intelligent cruise control, and consistent lane markers are detected. So it kind of goes back to what you said, Jake. If we're going to do a test drive to ensure and validate it's working properly, we're going to have to go and travel to a road that actually has lane markers, and that can vary based on where my shop's located at. Now, finally, the steering assist is turned on using driver's assistant settings or by pressing the steering assist switch. So we're going to talk now about something that has Jake really excited, and that's something called the Direct Adaptive Steering feature. So Jake, can you tell me a little bit about this feature?
Well, you've got a drive-by-wire capability with the vehicle. So if you see in the picture, we've got three controllers that are stacked.
Wow.
Three controllers that are stacked in redundance there. So if one fails, then another one can pick up. This system is capable of nearly 1,000 steering decisions per second. So it's literally working all of the time. And so we got to think about that when we're doing our front suspension, our suspension alignments, or we're doing part replacements to steering racks or steering columns or control arms and things like that, making sure that we research those procedures in tech info.
So, it seems like obviously there'd be some benefits to having this steering assist system. And, according to what I've read in Tech Info, the system works under a variety of conditions to reduce driver fatigue. Could you give us a little bit more insights on that, Jake?
Well, we've all had that customer that complained that the vehicle pulled to the left or pulled to the right, and you come to find out they live on a road that has a pretty drastic crown, right? So this system is intelligent enough to actually steer into the crown and reduce the driver's fatigue, so they don't notice it. And then, like I said, it's making those 1,000 decisions per second to do that. It can also find lane markers and actually perform S-shaped curves. So as you go around corners or go around slight curves, it can actually make those inputs for you.
So, I think back to the older days, right? When you used to hear about vehicles with alignment problems would have torque steer. Like when you would accelerate, it would automatically pull. And sometimes we had to adjust the cross member in order to compensate for this. Yeah. Sounds like this is kind of doing it for me.
Now it's doing it electronically. And so we're going to have consult steps involved there and just different procedures. And that's why we can't assume that we know it. We can't assume that we've done four-wheel alignments forever and that we know how to do every one. We need to look in Tech Info to find the benefits and the features of these new systems.
So we'll talk a little bit now about steering assist operation. So Jake, when the ICC and steering assist are turned on, the lane camera attempts to detect the lane markers on the road. Is that correct?
Correct.
Elaborate on that a little bit more for me.
Yeah, so you want to make sure that you're on a road where those lane markers are very clear. Obviously, the weather conditions can play a role there as well. So heavy rain and snow could prevent you from the system actually working and force it to fail safe.
Okay, so Jake, I know we're going to get this question, right? Because I know what you're thinking right now. I know there's probably somebody in this class right now that's from Montana, Alaska, Minnesota, and they're like, well, how am I supposed to test drive the car if the snow is covering up the road? So Jake, what's the answer?
I'm going to try my best here. Being a Florida guy, we don't deal with snow too much, but you want to try and find the roads that are maybe freshly cleared. The heated roads, I guess, maybe the bridges or something like that. Find a road that has very clear lane markings, and this might be something you actually have to go and explore a little bit in your town to find out where you're going to do these types of operations when the weather gets bad.
Right, but here's the most important thing. If for some reason you're unable to do this because of weather conditions, it's important we have that conversation with the vehicle owner.
So, steering assist operation. When both lane markers are detected, steering assist engages the steering wheel and lane icons on the combination meter and they turn green. So when you're trying to QC this after a repair, pay attention to those steering assist indicators found in the gauge cluster. If the camera temporarily cannot detect the lane marker, the system will disengage until the lane markers are detected again. So once again, getting on the correct road to make sure the lane markers are clear.
So now we're going to talk a little bit about some of the conditions required for the steering assist to operate properly. First of all, Jake, it sounds like the intelligent cruise control has to be active, right?
Right.
It also sounds like when we're driving the vehicle, we have to have line markers on the roads. What are some other things that you can share with us that are required in order for the steering assist to operate properly?
Well, the vehicle speed is 37 miles an hour or more with nothing in front of you.
Okay.
If there's a vehicle in front of you, it has to be traveling below 37 miles an hour.
Okay, great. And then obviously we know that the seat belt has to be buckled, right? Got to have your seat belt on. What about the driver grip in the steering wheel? Do I have to have one hand or both hands on it? Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I get the question is how does the vehicle know if I have the steering wheel on or I'm gripping the steering wheel, right?
Right.
So Nissan Infiniti vehicles can actually detect resistance in the steering angle sensor, in the torque sensor inside the steering column. It can detect resistance left or right. So if it doesn't detect any resistance, it's going to alert you to grip the steering wheel.
Okay, great insights. Now, the vehicle also has to be driven in the center of the lane, and we have to make sure that brakes are not being applied. Also, Jake, what can you tell me a little bit about turn signals and wipers?
Well, the turn signals cannot be operated as well, and the wipers not operate at low or high speed for 10 seconds or more.
So these are certain conditions that must be met in order for the steering assist operation to perform properly. Now, let's talk a little bit about hands-on detection. ProPilot Assist is a hands-on driver's assistance system. It is not, and I will repeat, it is not a self-driving feature. The driver must stay actively involved in driving at all times. You heard Jake just a moment ago tell us, how does the vehicle know that we actually have a hand on the steering wheel, Jake?
Well, remember, it's watching that torque sensor to determine is there any resistance in the steering wheel.
So for safety reasons, the system monitors the steering wheel torque during the steering assist operation to determine if the driver's hands are grasping the steering wheel. So the car is not going to allow you to cheat. Now, if the system does not detect the resistance of the driver's hands on the steering wheel for approximately 10 seconds, the system starts to provide visual warnings in the meter, which is the dash display. That's where you see the two hands on the steering wheel on your dash. Shop time. Back to that favorite part of the class, where you, the students, get to actually do hands-on work on a vehicle. So your instructor is now going to walk you through what your exercise is going to be on your dedicated vehicle in regards to ProPilot. Jake, any tips or any words of encouragement?
Well, you also make sure you identify the trim level. Remember, the higher end and the platinum editions are going to have ProPilot. Look for that electric brake switch. And if you're doing a calibration, make sure you prep appropriately.
So good luck on your next exercise.